and family of New Mount Olive, we welcome you here to this evening's event. This evening is entitled By the People, For the People, What the 2026 Laws, Budget, and Redistricting Mean for Our Community. And we are extending a warm welcome to each of you. Will all the clergy in the room, will all the clergy please stand? If there are clergy in the room, will you please stand so that we can acknowledge you? Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you. And now will all the elected officials please stand? All the elected officials who are here, please stand. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being here as well. And if there are community leaders who are here, or leaders of civic organizations, will you please stand? We want to acknowledge you as well. Any community leaders, leaders of community organizations, civic organizations throughout Broward County, we want to make sure that we recognize you. And everybody else who's here, will you please stand? We want to recognize all you two, everybody who's here. Let me just say, welcome. You are welcome. Thank you very much, okay? I want to give a special thanks to our distinguished presenters and panelists who have taken time to come and educate us and engage us as a community on these issues that impact our lives. This meeting is not for them. This meeting is for us. This meeting is to take us off of AI, to take us off of social media, to take us off of whatever echo chamber you happen to be on, and make sure that you have the facts. So it is a time when you listen, but it is a time also in which you are to ask questions and keep asking until you get the answer that you need to understand what's going on. These are critically important issues, and we have subject matter experts who are here, who are experts based upon their office and their experience and their passion for making sure that you know what's going on, and more importantly, that you know the actions you must take. This is not just about becoming harbors of information. This is about becoming actors. We're no longer standing on the shoulders of those who've come before us. We have to embrace the responsibility for action. That's what they demonstrated to us. So we must be informed actors, and that's what tonight is all about. So can we give our presenters a hand in advance for what they are going to be telling us and doing for us? Okay, so I am not the moderator. I'm just trying to warm up the crowd just a little bit. But we are blessed to have an extraordinary moderator before us. He is a respected voice in South Florida, a media and dedicated community advocate, Mr. Rodney Baltimore. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Known throughout the region for his outstanding work with Hot 105 FM, Rodney has spent decades informing, inspiring, and connecting communities through journalism, public affairs, programming, and civic engagement. His commitment to amplifying important issues and empowering people has made him a trusted leader and influential communicator. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you and present to others, Mr. Rodney Baltimore.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Reverend Jackson. And I want to get it back, and I want to get it back loud. Good evening. One more time, good evening. Good evening. All right, I thank you for allowing me to be here today. And of course, thank you, Dr. Osgood. We're here tonight for By the People, For the People, what the 2026 laws, budget, redistricting means for our community. And we're going to have a very good evening this evening. Tonight, as mentioned, is about information, it's about engagement, it's about empowerment. The decisions made up in Tallahassee impact our schools, our health care, our housing, our transportation, our public safety, our voting rights, our economic opportunities, and our quality of life. And our goal is simple: to ensure that the people who are affected by public policy understand what's happening and how they can participate in shaping our community. Now, this evening, we're going to hear from elected officials, civil rights leaders, and elected representatives who will provide updates on the new laws passed through the 2026 legislative session, the state budget, local investments, as well as redistricting and voting changes and opportunities for civic engagement. Thank you for taking time this evening to be informed on this Wednesday night, despite the chance of some rain. Now, you should have received a note card. Can you hold them up? Everyone should have one. If you don't have one, put your hand up, and the deaconess and ushers put them up, because if you do have a question, okay, we want you to write it down so we can address your concerns a little bit later on this evening. Our program will begin in the proper spirit as we invite Ms. Michelle Roll, Chair of the Deaconess Ministry, to come forward and lead us in our opening invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you, we praise you, we just magnify you right now. We pray as we go into this meeting tonight, oh God, that you will give us insight. Father God, that you will allow us to walk away tonight with information that we can share in our community. I thank you for everyone that will provide information. And, oh God, as it comes forth tonight, oh God, that it will come with clarity, oh God. We'll walk away tonight understanding everything that we as the people would know what to do when we leave here tonight. I thank you for Dr. Rosalind Osgood and all she does, oh Father God. I thank you for her allowing us, oh God, to have this opportunity to share this information. And so, God, I pray your blessing right now upon each one that will speak. Give them the wisdom, oh Father God. Empower them tonight. And we say thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Deaconess Roll. And at this time, we're going to have the Negro National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, sung by the New Mount Olive Choir. So I ask that you stand and enjoy our anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
So you do all know that it's better when we do it together, right? So you all have hymnals in your pews, and the hymn number is 540. Again, that's Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift. Sing. Verse 2, Stony the road. Verse 3, God God bless you. Thank you. You may be seated.
And thank you very much. Our first presenter is a dedicated public servant committed to protecting voter access and election integrity throughout Broward County, all of Broward County. Please welcome Broward County Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Joe Scott.
So I'm actually joining you all. Oh, can everybody hear me okay? All right.
We can hear you.
So good evening, everybody. First of all, I really wish I could be there with you all in person. I'd much rather be at the historic New Mount Baptist Church than where I am now. I'm at a hotel in Orlando. We're having our conference for all the election officials in Florida here in Orlando this week. And so on the plus side, you all are going to get some of the newest information hot off the presses, because we just heard from the state chief election officer today about how they plan to implement a new law that just passed this year. So I'm happy to pass on some of that information to you all tonight. If you all are wondering why I'm in a pink shirt, it was actually a theme for the conference today. If you follow us on social media, at Broward Post, you can see pictures of the whole team, including, more than one member of New Mount Baptist Church as part of my senior leadership team here, that will be there with all of us with our pink shirts on, because only real men can wear pink. But in terms of what's going to happen here with elections, I'm guessing that a few of you all in the audience have heard about the Save America Act that you might have heard about on the news. It's a proposed federal law that passed the House of Representatives and got held up in the U.S. Senate, and it's probably not going to become a federal law. But since we live in Florida, our Florida legislature actually passed what I call the Not All Save Act, a Florida-only version of this of the law that is going to go into effect, but it won't go into effect until January 1st of 2027. So I've actually had more than a few people now ask me if they have to bring their birth certificate with them to the polling place this year, and the answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because the law does not go into effect until after this 2026 election, January 1st of 2027. So that being said, in the future, it will be very important for people to have their citizenship documents available. Now, on the plus side, a lot of people, most people, have completed the requirement when they go to DHS&V to get real ID. As long as they got their real ID as a U.S. citizen with a document that proves that they are a U.S. citizen. And what do I mean by that? Some people may have used a green card when they originally went to go get a driver's license, Then they subsequently became a U.S. citizen. And unless you go back to the DMV and update that documentation that they have on file for you at the DMV, the state's system is still going to see you as an immigrant and as somebody who does not have the right to vote. So if there's one piece of advice that I can give to everybody on how to be prepared for future elections, it's going to be to go ahead and get that real ID. To get your real ID, assuming you are a U.S. citizen and that you provide the documents proving you are a U.S. citizen, when you get that real ID, you will be prepared to vote at any time. You won't need to provide any additional documents, again, under the current law as it is in place today. So that's what's happening. That's the biggest development. I think you all probably also heard about this change to our voting lines here in the state of Florida. This would be for the congressional districts. So the congressional districts did change pretty dramatically here in Broward County. Almost everybody, at least about 1 million people in Broward County are going to get a new voter information card if there was a change to your congressional district. Now, some people were part of Congressional District 20 before, or part of Congressional District 24 before the change, and they're still part of that same district now. And if you fall into that category, which is only about 1/4 of our voters here in Broward County, those individuals will not get a new voter ID card because nothing changed for you. But everybody else will get a new voter ID card because your district absolutely did change. So, it looks like if people have been following this process and wondering if this was going to get stopped by the courts, it does look like there have now been a couple of judgments that have not gone the right way, in my opinion. And we're now 99.99% certain that the new maps will go into effect and will be the congressional maps that are used for the state of Florida, at least for this election and for the foreseeable future. So those are the big changes that happened here in terms of both the picture from the federal level as well as the state level. Let me tell you guys a little bit about what we're doing locally to improve access. We see our federal government and our state government doing everything they can to make it harder for people to vote, to kind of disenfranchise our community, so to say. But here locally, at the local level, we're able to take some steps to make it a little bit easier. For the November election, we are actually going to have more early voting sites than ever before. We're looking at somewhere around 29 or 30 early voting sites. And early voting sites are important because these are the sites that will be open for 2 weeks, starting in mid-October through the Sunday before Election Day, which will be November 1st. November 1st is the last day of early voting. The election day for November will be November 3rd. But for 2 weeks leading up to November 1st, you will be able to go anywhere in Broward County. There'll be 29 or 30 different locations. We're still trying to lock down a couple of spots. But, we're talking 29 to 30 different locations, and you can pick any one that you want to pick during that early voting time to go vote in person. And that's key because most people would prefer to go vote, say, right before they go to work, after work, during a lunch break, and you can actually vote close to where you work instead of having to go vote close to where you live. And if you wait until the last day, which is a Tuesday, and most of us are at work on Tuesday, but you don't get to vote anywhere in the county close to where you work, you'll have to go back home, close to where you live, and that's where you will have to vote at that polling place, your assigned polling place, for those who like to wait until the last day to vote. Early voting is not the only option. We also have vote by mail. So vote by mail is still here, still in full effect. With us having more early voting sites than ever before, that also means that you will have more places to drop off your ballot if you would like to drop off your ballot instead of mailing it back. Of course, you can mail that ballot back. You don't have to pay for postage. We send you everything that you need to vote and return your envelope. Voting by mail is still the most convenient way to cast your ballot. Some people show up to go to the early voting site and they might see a long line and they're thanking God that they had that vote by mail ballot there so that they could skip the line and drop that ballot off in the box and head back home. So I would encourage everybody to take a minute, visit browardvotes.gov and request your vote by mail ballot. If you did get a vote by mail ballot for the 2024 election, that does not mean you're going to get one this time. You have to sign up for each election cycle. So this new election cycle started in January of 2025. If you signed up since then, you're good to go. But if you haven't, please take a minute, visit browardvotes.gov and go ahead and sign up. Signing up for a vote by mail ballot does not mean you have to vote by mail. It just gives you the option to vote by mail. So don't take that option away from yourself. Go ahead and submit that request online today. You can also call the office if you don't feel comfortable using the internet. The phone number is 954-357-VOTE. That's 954-357-8683. I want to take, I know I'm probably getting over my time here, but if there are any questions, I'd love to answer at least one or two questions just to get a feel for what's on your mind. If there's something you would have liked to have heard from me that you didn't hear. Are there any questions out there?
Supervisor election, how soon will the voting ID cards be sent out? Is there a delay?
Right. Well, if there's not any questions from the audience, I will go ahead and pass it back and say thank you very much to Dr. Jackson for hosting us at the historic New Mount Olive.
One quick question.
To Senator Osgood for the invitation to come speak tonight. Again, I wish I could have been there with you all in person.
The question is, how soon before the voting ID cards be sent out?
So we're hoping to get those in the mail very soon. So we're finalizing the new maps. We have to get the new maps in place, which basically requires us to go in and do some pretty detailed work in our system to update our maps. So that's going to take us a little bit of time to get done and to do testing and verification to make sure it's right. But as soon as we have it right, we're going to try to get those ballots in the mail. Sorry, not the ballots. We're going to get the ballots in the mail on time regardless. And we're hoping to get those cards to you before we get to that point. So certainly well ahead of the early voting, in-person early voting timeline for the August election. I didn't really talk much about that August election. I want to mention to everybody that this year and every time there's an August election, we have important races that everybody can vote in. So some people stay home and skip the August election because they don't believe that they can vote in that August election, especially people who have chosen not to register with one of the major political parties. But the fact is we have judicial races, school board races, and sometimes we have even primary races that are on everybody's ballot because it is the only contest that's happening. There won't be a contest in November. So it's the person is going to be elected in August, then everybody gets to vote in that election in August. So it's something that I would encourage everybody to make sure that they have that on their calendar, whether you are registered with a major party or not. That August election is for all voters, and it's critical because so many important roles in our community are decided in August.
Any other questions from the audience?
Are there any other questions?
Yes, we have one question. The microphone is there. Yes, ma'am. There is one question.
If a person change their address, does the
Everybody, I'm going to stay here for the next for the other presentations. I really want to hear what the other folks have to say. So if y'all want to,
Okay.
if anybody wants to come back to me, I'll be here for a little bit.
Okay, we're going to have that question written on the card for you. We know that there's a delay in the broadcast, and if you have a card, okay, we'll give you one index card, and you can write. And was another question I understand out there? A second question for the supervisor of election. All right, well then thank you, Supervisor Election Scott, and we'll get back to you. Right now we're going to talk about civil rights, a civil rights perspective Voting rights and civil rights have always been interconnected, and understanding how public policy affects equity and access remains essential to building strong communities. And you're going to join me right now in welcoming the president of the NAACP Broward Fort Lauderdale branch, President Marsha Ellison. Marsha, come forward, please.
Good evening. On behalf of our national chairman of the National Board of Directors, Mr. Leon W. Russell, our president and CEO, Mr. Derek Johnson, the 64 members of our National Board of Directors, and all the members of the Fort Lauderdale Broward branch of the NAACP, I bring you greetings. First, let me be clear. The NAACP is and always has been a nonpartisan civil rights organization. We do not endorse political candidates. Our mission is not to support parties or personalities, but to advocate for policies, principles, and actions that advance civil rights, voting rights, social justice, and equal opportunities. With that said, I certainly am honored to be here to join you this evening to discuss a truth that has guided the NAACP for more than 117 years. Voting rights and civil rights have always been interconnected. The right to vote is not merely about elections, it is about power. It is about representation. It is about where the communities have a meaningful voice in the decisions that shape their lives. When we talk about civil rights, we talk about equal access to education, employment, housing, healthcare, public safety, and justice. But none of those rights can be fully protected if people are denied an equal voice in government. That is why Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. often referred to voting rights as the key that unlocks all other rights. The moral purpose of the civil rights movement was simple but profound. America should live up to its promise that all people are created equal and entitled to equal protection under the law. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was one of the greatest achievements in that movement. It was born from the blood, sacrifice, and courage of ordinary citizens who marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. They faced clubs, tear gas, intimidation, and violence because they understood something very fundamental. Without political power, civil rights will never be secured. The moral foundation of the Voting Rights Act was not merely legal, it was ethical. It recognized that democracy is not just the majority rules. Democracy requires equal participation. It recognized that communities that had been excluded, silenced, and oppressed deserved a fair opportunity to elect representatives who understood their experiences and would fight for their interests. For decades, the Voting Rights Act served as one of the nation's strongest protections against racial discrimination in voting and redistricting. It helps create congressional districts, legislative districts, county commission districts, school board districts, and city commission districts where Black voters had a fair opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. As a result, Black political representation expanded across America. More Black mayors were elected, more Black legislators were elected, more Black judges were appointed and elected, more Black voices reached decision-making tables that had historically excluded them. These gains were not accidental. They were a direct result of voting rights protections. Yet today, we find ourselves at a critical crossroads. Recent Supreme Court decisions have significantly weakened the Voting Rights Act, particularly protections that have long been used to challenge racial vote dilution in in redistricting cases. The court's decision in Louisiana versus Calais narrowed how Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act can be used to challenge district maps, making it more difficult for communities to prove that redistricting plans unlawfully dilute minority voting strength. Subsequent decisions involving Alabama and other states have further raised concerns among civil rights activists about the future effectiveness of these protections. Whether one agrees or disagrees with the court's legal reasoning, the practical question remains: what happens when communities lose the ability to elect representatives of their choice? That question brings us to redistricting. Many people think redistricting is simply about drawing lines on a map, but redistricting is actually about political power. The lines determine who gets represented. The lines determine whose voices are amplified. The lines determine whether communities stay together or are divided. For Black communities, redistricting can have profound consequences. A community can be packed into a single district, limiting its influence elsewhere. A community can be cracked across multiple districts, weakening its voting strength. Neighborhoods with shared interests can be divided among several representatives who may not prioritize their concerns. The result can be fewer opportunities to elect candidates who understand the unique challenges facing Black communities. And when representation is weakened, policy outcomes often follow. The effects can be seen in decisions involving public education, affordable housing, healthcare access, environmental justice, transportation investment, economic development, criminal justice, and yes, the voting access itself. That is why redistricting is not merely a political issue. It is a civil rights issue. It is a voting rights issue, and it is a democracy issue. Here in Florida, these concerns are especially relevant. The ongoing debate surrounding congressional and legislative district boundaries have raised serious questions about minority representation and whether historically Black communities will continue to have meaningful political influence in the electoral process. The NAACP has consistently maintained that every voter deserves fair representation and that district maps should not dilute voting strength of communities that have fought for generations to secure equal access to the ballot box. This is not about partisanship. This is about fairness. This is about whether democracy works for everyone. The moral lesson of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 remains as important today as it was 60 years ago. The law was built on a simple premises. Democracy is stronger when every community has an equal opportunity to participate and be heard. The question before us is, will we continue to honor that principle? Will we educate voters? Will we encourage young people? Will we challenge barriers to participation? Will we defend fair representation? Will we remain vigilant when voting rights are threatened? The generation that marched in Selma did not sacrifice so that future generations could become complacent. They marched because they believed that democracy required participation. They marched because they understood that voting rights and civil rights are inseparable. The NAACP understands that truth today, as it did in 1909. Our mission remains the same: to protect democracy, to defend civil rights, to ensure equal justice, and to guarantee that every citizen has a meaningful voice in the decisions that affect their lives daily. Because when voting rights are protected, civil rights advance. When voting rights are weakened, civil rights are endangered. And when communities are fully represented, democracy flourishes. The struggle continues. The responsibility is ours, and the time to act is now. I thank you. God bless you, and God bless the ongoing fight for voting rights, civil rights, and equal justice for all. Peace and power.
Thank you, Madam President. From the NAACP, Marsha Ellison. In this portion of our discussion tonight, we're going to move into a forum, a discussion with your state senator, the Reverend Dr. Rosalind Osgood, who represents Congressional District 32, state senator, and State Representative Darrell Campbell, who represents District 29. And are you coming, District 99, I'm sorry, would you come forward to... I want to say good evening to Senator Osgood and Representative Darrell Campbell, and we're going to discuss the 2026 legislative session, what it means for the people here in Broward County, specifically residents represented by Senate District 32 and District 99. We have a couple of questions. Should I give you all the questions now, or do you want me to go one by one to you? All right, I'm going to give you 3 questions, okay? So you can make some preparations in whatever order you decide we can do so. One of the questions will be, what are the most important investments included in the 2026 budget that residents of Broward County should know about? I know that the session ended yesterday. And also, what budget priorities did each of you advocate during the legislative session, and how will those investments directly benefit your districts and our surrounding communities? And the third part of that question is, are there any budget decisions that concern you that you believe may negatively impact vulnerable populations in our community? And we can go with protocol. I guess we go to the Senate first. Dr. Osgood.
Thank you. The Senate is the upper chamber. The difference is a Senate district is 600,000 residents, and a House district is about 140,000. So as a senator, I have, I think, 5 House members that represent the same area. So the most important investment for me that's included in the 2026 budget was first the only budget item that we actually passed during the 2026 legislative session that ended in March. And then we've had 6 special sessions. We're kind of running out of numbers. And that first amount was around $75 million gap funding to save the ADAP program. That's the AIDS Drug Assistance Program. The Department of Health presented their budget, and they had just kind of left that money out. And for our brothers and sisters that live with HIV, that's the money that subsidized their medicine. The medicine is somewhere around $1,200 or more a month. So without that funding, they could not afford the medicine. So we passed the gap funding to get them through June, and then we came back and went back and forth a lot because the first Senate budget had about $118 million to restore that program without premium assistance, and the House had $68 million. So the way the process works is the House and Senate budget has to match before we get it to the governor. So we worked in a very bipartisan way, and it's important for me to say this to you, with both Democrats and Republicans, to make sure that that program was funded and restored, make sure that the formulary stays the same, where it's 400% below the poverty level instead of 100%. If you drop it down, it would kick about 17,000 people off the medication. And to make sure that people had access to the medicine that they already take. There's a medicine called Biktarvy, which is a 1-pill medicine for people with HIV. It's very expensive. So the state was trying to get rid of it. And this is why representation is so important. The work that you've allowed me to do in this community, this church had Angels of Hope, a HIV support ministry, since early in the 90s. It's one of the things that we've continued to do at this church. When you take HIV medicine, it's not like switching from Tylenol to Advil. You have to take the medicine that's working for your body. So people that don't have that lived experience, that are not intricately involved, they don't know that unless we tell them. So that to me was one of the most important investments that we made in this legislative session that could literally cause people to die because they didn't have their medicine. You want me to answer all three, or you want me to go to Rep. Campbell after one?
Let's go to Representative.
Okay.
Same question.
Thank you, and thank you for everybody being here today. You know, I was just talking to the senator and letting her know that we literally just got in. Like, I got in at 3 a.m. this morning, and to our job, as elected officials, to advocate on your behalf and to try our best to remove all types of emotions in that process. But I sit here before you frustrated, upset, angry. If some of you, if you watched the Florida channel, you probably saw my debate yesterday calling out our Republican colleagues about their disingenuous. Thank you. They literally, so it's different on the House. Let me start off with that. And we were sitting in committee yesterday, and they literally told, we are trying to improve this bill because a lot of the arguments that we get is that we're not, what are we doing to try to help improve some of the stuff that is going in these legislations? And we do that. We add amendments. We try to make bad bills better, which they're still bad, and we still don't vote up for it. But it's still our job as elected officials to ensure that we are putting our best foot forward in advocating. You know, if we're going to go down this route, what you should be aware of, this is what's going to happen. And so, you know, I sit here with Senator Osgood in agreement to the ADAP. That was the biggest issue that we need to make sure that we tackle. AIDS is on the rise in our communities, and we just don't talk about it enough. And this was needed to make sure that we are protecting individuals with the support and the care that they need moving forward. I say that as that is the only thing that I feel that we've done for this budget to be a success. And that's terrible because we literally just put through a $114 billion budget. And the fact that I can't go through that budget and say there has been something else that we have done, it has been a roller coaster, to say the least. Some of the things that we've seen done in this session has been terrifying. We've seen minority teacher scholarship programs being cut from $1.5 million eliminated. We've seen funding for school lunches being cut. That's a $450 million eliminated. VPK, $0 to increase spending. Florida Forever, $100 million eliminated. AHCA work group eliminated in the proviso language. And so proviso language is pretty much the language that tells you how that fund is going to be implemented. And it was supposed to prove quality of health care and delivery of service and administration. And so we talk about what is needed for our community and our state. And in the 4 years that I've been there, this is the year where I feel like we really dropped the ball. And this is why, as we were sitting and we were looking and watching what goes on and what we need to do next as leaders in the community, holding these sessions, educating you, letting you know what do we do next. I'm happy to be back home because I'm energized, I'm revigorated, I'm ready to get to work, I'm ready to get on the ground, and it's because of each one of you. You guys are going to help us to achieve that goal that we're trying to set.
Thank you very much, Representative Campbell. Now, the second part of that question is what budget priorities did each of you advocate during the session? And will those investments directly benefit your districts?
Thank you for the question. I have some common themes that I work around most of the time. Most of my priorities are in like healthcare, mental health, maternal health, affordable housing, workforce development, and you bet, kids empowerment and support for seniors. I tend to focus on the populations like the prison inmates and those people who don't have a voice. I have to be their voice. So right now, as the budgets have come to an agreement between the House and the Senate, I have $38,842 in the budget for the governor to either veto or move forward. And I will say $20 million of that is money that I've been fighting for 4 years to build a new detention center on Broward. Many of you go over the overpass of 595, and as you go around to the tri-rail on the right, it's a detention center where they house kids. It is absolutely disgusting and inhumane. If we're going to house kids and incarcerate kids, we can't have them in a filthy, dirty facility. So that was my complaint on the school board, and I've taken that fight to Tallahassee. Representative Campbell and I have been working on initiatives around Black maternal mortality or doula health. So in order for me to get a bill or appropriation, I have to have a partner on the House side working on it as well. Now, when you go research, don't freak out, because you're going to see a lot of my partners are in the other party. But when you don't have power in a supermajority, you have to have access to power to get things done. So you have to work in a bipartisan way. So we had a doula bill for a doula pilot project for Palm Beach, Miami, and Dade County. I got the bill moving. He was told by the chair of his healthcare committee, a young, gorgeous lady, that she didn't believe in doulas. So I had to make a decision, and this is why I'm so grateful to this church, to Dr. Davidson, because hearing the word and what you teach me makes me act very differently. So I decided not to go to the House to have a few very strong words with her. I decided to pull the bill and work it through the budget process through the proviso language. So I pulled it, I got it in the proviso language for $708,000 to go through Healthy Start. Well, when we left in March, it wasn't in the House budget. I want to thank you for whatever you did to get that money in the House budget so that we can have that money in the budget together. So that's one thing. Two things that I'm very proud of. I also always have a lot of city projects. The cities give us appropriations. And Darrell was talking about the cuts. Let's just be clear. The old big brutal bill was not beautiful. That's the wrong choice of words. That bill took away a lot of funding that's given to state and local governments. So we know on the state level, if we don't make cuts over the next 5 years, our budget is going to be in a deficit. So there are a lot of cuts to programs and things that are going on in Tallahassee, because what happens on the national level trickles down on the state level, and then it trickles down on the lower level. So I'm very proud of those items. I have a few more things that I'm proud of, and all of this $32 million is specifically for this district. Once they get through the governor's veto pen, then we'll celebrate. So right now, I need y'all to be praying. I have a list if you want, to know exactly what those items are across the 8 cities that I represent. I got funding for 6 of my 8 cities. I was not successful in getting funding for Oakland Park and Sunrise because the projects that they requested, like parks and those things, the state say they can pay for those on the local level. And I'm taking the time to explain to you because it's not like we just go in Tallahassee and make things happen. It's moving fast in 60 days. It's a lot of work. I will say that I am truly grateful for the relationships and the kindness that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle show me. They need me, they need my prayers. So I give my prayers and they help me with my appropriations and my bills. I think that's good generosity, right?
And Representative Campbell, that same question, those that you advocated for specifically.
Thank you for that question. Thank you, Senator, for the great work that you do. As I prefaced my last answer, I'm gonna start off with this. It is different on the House side. It is different. Absolutely. So as we go down this path, remember, so we went down 6 sessions, 6 special sessions. We are obligated, our job as elected officials is to pass a balanced budget. This is the second year in a row where we said, in those 60 days that you guys have sent us up to Tallahassee, where we said that we are supposed to get a balanced budget, we said, no, we need more time. We need more time. This year was very special in the least because in this budget, I was able to attain $1.28 million for our budget in the House. A lot of that had to do with a lot of in-house fighting that was ongoing, not on my particular side, but as it goes with the Speaker and the Governor. And then also, it is tricky because you got to understand, when you're up there in 60 days, you have access to everybody. Like you can make a phone call, but I'm gonna see you eventually. You know, you can't ignore my phone call. And I'm an in-person type of individual, and so it's easier to have those conversations in person. A lot of the stuff that we had to do was difficult because when they send us home, a lot of members do shut down. Like they're hard to get in touch with, and so it was tricky because we had to now change our method of getting in touch with individuals. I even had to leave here earlier just to get up there faster so that I can talk with the appropriation chairs and their staff so that we can make sure that we get things put in. And still, that's not guaranteed because as you already know, if those chairs are not there, they can't do. There's nothing that can have. But what we ended up seeing is that when chairs came back, they themselves did not know the process of what was going on. And so you think about hierarchy. So you have the members, then you got the members in leadership, and then if the ones that are chairs of their committee in those leaderships don't know, it bounces up to the main appropriation chair and the Speaker. And so a lot of the conversations had been closed doors, and which was what I would say is disingenuous because we talk about they love to talk about this is a member-driven process, but my gripe with that is how is this a member-driven process when your own members don't know what is being driven? And so those are the conversations and those are the frustrations you start to see build up day in and day out on the floor. And so we fought very hard to get this money into the budget. I would say this is the lowest amount of money I've brought home since I've been in office. And this is only a question of, we got an asterisk on it because the governor has not even touched it yet. And we don't know what the governor plans to do. There's been word that there might be another special session because he's not done with the property taxes. And so we don't know what that plan might be, but it is on our radar. For me, some of the special bills that I, as far as funding that I brought home, was helping Senator Osgood with our maternal health and peace and making sure that we find different avenues and workarounds, you know. And so you got to think, we add in all these appropriations, and each appropriation we strategically pick to get towards different chairs and different so that we can have different conversations with each chair here on the House side. And when you run into a wall, we always think about what's our next move, because we're not just here to take no. It's, okay, what can you do for me? Who can I talk to? Who's the next person? And we approach it in that manner, and how we attack. And so doing the maternal health and figuring workarounds around that was one of the highest achievements that we had this session. Because when I tell you we had to sit there and think and think and think, it was like, okay, one day she might be down, next day I might be down, but we're picking each other up and figuring out what's our workarounds and who can we talk to and who we can get in. The best part that we have here is that we have good relationships on both sides of the aisle, but the other piece of that, in the House, they sometimes don't have control of what they have to do. Like, it's pretty much a top-down type approach. And so that's the struggle that we face. And, we're going to continue keep fighting and figuring out those dollars that we have in, stay in there, because now we're talking with the governor's office. But as of right now, it's something that we're going to continue to keep looking at. And we're not tired. We're just figuring out what's the next plan and what's the next moves to make sure that we get more money into the budget for our community.
We're going to stick with you, Representative Campbell. Let's talk about some of the negative impacts of the budget that you think is going to impact our vulnerable communities, and then we'll go to you, State Senator.
Well, absolutely, man. There's a lot, as I stated to you about, all the funding cut towards our schools, our minority schools, our teachers. I think what you might have been seeing on and hearing is that teachers are being let go. They can't afford them. We're seeing things of that avenue play a factor into that. I really believe that the concerns that we just heard in this property tax bill is going to be it's going to impact immediately, because what they're trying to really tell us is that we're cutting property taxes, but that's not the case. What they're doing is they're shifting it, because those property, if you're paying for your roads, if money is going towards a Children's Services Council for mental health care and all that stuff, those things still need to be in play. And so if we say we're taking away that, where do you think that money is going to come from? They're going to find that way. And there were various things that they proposed as far as in knowing that this is going to be something detrimental. They talked about proposing a trust fund. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with how the state of Florida uses their trust form, but it's definitely not in the most ethical way. And we talk about affordable housing and how that plays a part. And so, and how they take money from a pot of our trust fund and put it somewhere else. And so they pretty much kind of eliminated that trust fund idea. But what they're trying to do is kick the can down the road so that future legislators don't have the ability or the options to make the most informed vote that they can on a situation. They didn't give them no guidelines, nothing in there. And then when we asked the questions and when we questioned them, they ignored it. They gave us what, 45 minutes to debate, and Republicans, my colleagues across the aisle, refused to debate. They waived their time. And so it was just only Democrats debating on a bill and raising the issue while they turned the blind eye. Now, the conversations that we had behind closed doors is a lot of them were frustrated walking to their cars in disbelief that this is what we're doing. Mind you, as I said, 60 days to do a budget. They come back in 2 days to make a decision on how do we help with this property tax issue. And on top of that, we didn't get the bill until 5 minutes before it was time to go on the floor. So we're talking about time frames here, and if you see the war rooms that we have to create up there, and like you see me in a coat right now, but up there I'm coatless, ties undone, sleeves rolled up, because we all trying to dig in. We're trying to figure out what are you doing, how are you doing this, does it make sense? It's crazy because the things that we highlight to them is that as an individual, none of them would run their business in the manner that they're choosing to run the state of Florida. And so that has been the thing that we stand on. We're going to continue to stand on. And this fight is not over because, like I said, you guys are here, and we have a plan in figuring out how we get past all this.
And Senator Osgood, that same question, some negative impacts of the budget that you see.
So this year's budget is $3 billion less than last year's budget. Higher education budget was cut by $8.7 million. Hospitals started out being proposed to being cut by 10%. I think it was only cut by 3%. And that's critical because the public hospitals have to see people that don't have insurance. If they don't have money, they don't have staff, you go to the emergency room, you're waiting longer. The game that we keep playing with education is just ridiculous. I'm so glad that the Federal Teachers Union is suing the state for not properly funding education. It is so needed. Our Constitution says that we have to fund public education, but we use this FEFP formula to allocate money to schools based on students. But your cost of operation in a school is based on your facility size. So your facility size dictates your maintenance costs, your safety and security costs. Based on the square foot of your building, you have to have so many different officers. It just doesn't match. And so they'll increase it by $135, but schools are laying off people. They're having to make cuts because in the state, we're not giving them the money. I serve on education and education appropriation. My situation is different. In the House, Democrats can only be ranking members on committees. In the Senate, most of our committees have Democratic co-chairmen. I'm the co-chair of the Fiscal Policy Committee. The chair was probably one of the most powerful men in Tallahassee during this legislative session, Senator Joe Gruters, who is the chair of the National Republican Party. He's been my buddy since I got there. When I came in, we were the two least liked people, so it bonded us together. And I appreciate the relationship because he helped me get a lot done. Sometimes the things that get you out can be the things that help you later. But the dynamic and the reality of what we're dealing with that we find ourselves in, you have a governor and a Speaker of the House who don't like each other. I mean, literally don't like each other. If the governor say go right, the Speaker of the House is gonna say go left. If the Speaker of the House say go right, the governor gonna say left. We have a Senate president that's a God-fearing man, and he's saying God just want us all to get along. So we in the Senate, we trying to make the peace and we trying to get along, and we got the governor young, the Speaker of the House young, and they ain't hearing it. They just going at each other on egos. So if things don't match, then you get nothing done. We had 2,000 bills filed this legislative session. I think in the 60 days, we only passed like 200 of them because it was so much infighting going on. So Daryl's situation with the war room, I got the bill about 2 days before on the Senate side. We got it in an email about 2 days before we had to deal with the property taxes, and we're gonna come back and talk about that later. I am very concerned about Medicaid, and not so much as it relates to the budget, but the tricks that are being paid. So there will be new Medicaid eligibility requirements. So if you 70 or 80 and you gotta be recertified for Medicaid every year and you miss the form in your email, it's gonna kick you off. Well, within that year, you could have had to transition to a nursing home or a different living arrangement where you need that care to pay for that. So we're reducing costs by trying to reduce the number of people that are on Medicaid, the number of people that were on SNAP. It was like this real crazy, SNAP bill. And like I said, I'm glad I come home every Sunday to go to church, because I was sure enough about to lose it on this one, where they were trying to put work requirements for people that receive SNAP. Well, if I'm 65 and I need a work requirement, if I'm not working, I gotta show them that I applied for 4 jobs during the week. Well, if my blood pressure up, my diabetes off, I physically can't go do that, and they only giving them like $22 a month. But these are the games that are paid to reduce a lot of the costs for the social services, and that's why it's so important that we have meetings like this. I'm on juvenile justice appropriation. You'll hear Dixon, the secretary of that, he retired. He just couldn't take it no more. He'll come in and say, I need money to better staff the prisons to stop the violence and the anger. They'll say, okay, thank you for the presentation. It never shows up in the budget. So if you don't have money to staff the prison or have enough inmates in the prison, you have a lot of fighting, you have a lot of things going on in the prison. So that's why it's important for us to have this conversation, to talk you through the budget and how the budget works, and so you can understand what the process is. So many of you have appropriations. You send in your appropriations. Well, if they tell us we're not funding capital projects this year, I'm going to tell you right out the gate, they're not going to fund this. And you could call 12 other people to try to go around me. They're not going to fund it. They've already told us that. So I'm not going to waste my time when they've already given me the list of things that they're not going to fund. So on the Senate side, we do work a little more respectable with each other as a Senate family. Darrell was talking about having to meet people face to face. It's something about being an African-American woman, you can get people trained real quick. So for me, if I send texts, and most of the time I get a response. If I'm up at 1 a.m., everybody gonna be up at 1 a.m. getting a text. They don't want me to show up at the office. When I show up at the office, they're gonna say, Senator, are you here for prayer, or are you here for prayer and conversation? If I say prayer and conversation, they know exactly what time it is. So that's how I get responses, because you send us there to represent you. So we have to talk to everybody and explain our needs here. But this budget process is a doozy, because we're spending money in war. We're spending money on a facility, a grandiose facility, when people don't have food on their table. We're taking airplane rides and all this stuff. We just went to special session. We were notified on Wednesday we had special session to be in Tallahassee Monday. I'm in the Senate, so I have a little better budget than the rep have. My plane ticket to Tallahassee and back for 2 days was $2,800 because it was so last minute. So they probably spent about $60,000 or $70,000 just on this one last minute special session. And I'm not putting in housing and those kind of things when we have so many people that need food and so many people that are hungry.
Thank you, Senator. Wow. Now, Supervisor of Election Joe Scott talked about redistricting, and I think that's a concern of a lot of people here. Some members in our community expressed concerns about the potential dilution of the minority vote. So we'll start with you, Senator Osgood, on redistricting.
So when I look at redistricting on a national level, I think we have to be clear and we have to be honest. It is all designed to push Black electeds out of seats. On the congressional level, the state level, the local levels, we have managed to gain a lot of power in these seats. Many of us are old enough to remember here when we had no Blacks on the county commission, then one Black. Cities like Lauderhill and Lauderdale Lakes, many of these cities, Fort Lauderdale, they didn't have minority representation. And we fought for that minority representation. We didn't get it in Congressional District 20 until 27 years after the Voting Rights Act. It was passed in 1965. Alcee Hastings, Corrine Brown, and Carrie Meek got elected from South Florida to have black people in Congress in 1992. Many of you all know Attorney George Allen, who was a member of this church. They had already passed the law for the schools to be integrated, but he had to sue the Broward Board of Education to make them do it. So as we look at what they're doing with redistricting, if you go on a map in CD20, it is hilarious. It's where all the black people literally live. So I represent Plantation, both sides of Plantation. So they drew Jacaranda out. That's the rich part of Plantation. So they took the district up to Coconut Creek. They put most of us in that part, and then the other ones of us, like in South Bay, they cracked us into districts so we don't have enough voting strength. Remember when I initially got elected, I was elected to Senate District 33. That included Pompano. In a matter of 6 or 7 months, because redistricting happened, they had taken out Pompano. So now the black people in Pompano are in a district that go all the way up to Boca. So their representation is minimized and their voices are minimized. So when we talk about voter suppression, we have to see redistricting as voter suppression. And I'm going to take 2 minutes and deal with this because it's kind of happening out there, and I'm kind of the one for the assignment. I am an African-American woman, and I find it very demeaning and offensive when somebody think I'm a racist because I'm fighting for black representation. Everybody else fight for the representation for their community, and I'm gonna fight for it too. I want Jewish representation, Muslim. I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I'm never gonna stop fighting for people that look like me to have a lived experience. I believe that we work as hard, we pay taxes. This country was built on our backs, and we have a right to be at the table just like anybody else is at the table. And I will never shut up about it. I will never back down about it. So if you want to get me going, I'm ready to have a public conversation about anybody. And by the way, just in case you don't know, racism is prejudice plus power plus privilege. I believe that black people can be prejudiced. But all of these kind of fights we keep having to fight, it blocks our power. And we ain't never had no privilege. Right now, I'm still scared about getting stopped by the police. So we're in a moment in time where we cannot let the blood that our ancestors shed and all that happened to us be in vain. We can't worry about jobs. We can't worry about friendships. As a people, we have to demand representation at the table. And other people will appreciate it when we're at the table because we can prevent them from making some of the mistakes they make with the bad policy because they don't have our lived experience.
Thank you, Representative Campbell. Applause, standing applause, well deserved. Representative Campbell, your perspective, I don't know if you can come behind that.
What do we do about it? I definitely
That's the Q&A session coming up.
I definitely can't follow up behind that because she's absolutely right. We're talking about lived experience. I'm lived experience, but not as lived as Senator Osgood. I will never say that. But what I would say is that, understanding my history, understanding where our community had to come from, where my family had to come from, just to get me here in this position, I'm not going backwards. And I refuse to see us as a community go backwards. And it is why I wake up every morning focused and ready for the fight. I was telling somebody the other day, I said, man, I just quit my job. And they're like, I said, I'm jobless. And they said, but you do got a job. I was like, this is not a job. This is not a job. This is a calling, a service. I am trying to help people because I know I would not be here if I did not have people that look like Senator Osgood and some of the people that I'm looking out in this community right now that help to uplift me and tell me that I am powerful, I am kind, I can do it, I can make it, you know. And I go to Tallahassee, and I have to be honest. I sit there, and I don't see anybody that looks like me, black, young, with locks in their hair. I believe I'm the first black, young individual with locks up there, because when you look at all the representatives that came before me, there was nobody that had locks. As a matter of fact, I remember a time when they told me I had to cut my hair because I would never have a job. And I sit here before you advocating for a community, and I have folks that come up to Tallahassee thanking me for standing up for them, and people actually saying I look like them. And it's part of the reason why I make it personal to have my colleagues, when we are talking and we are having these negotiations about what goes into the budget, I make it a point that they see me. I don't want to talk to you on the phone because I want you to know the people and the individuals that are advocating for look like me in my community. I want to make sure you see my face, you see my reactions, and you see everything that comes with it, the emotions, the feelings. And it is frustrating and it is tiring, but I'm here for this fight. I'm built for this fight because the community invested so much into me, and that I'm going to make sure that I invest 3 times as much or even more so that we can make sure that we're continuing to move forward. And with this redistricting, I get questions from not just only here, but all across the nation about what we're doing. Well, we got a plan, and we're coming here to start that plan because I couldn't wait to get out of Tallahassee, get back. Like, somebody told me today it's dangerous to be driving so late on the road. I said, nah, when you want to get home, you're going to get home. And I knew I needed to make it home so I could be here and have this conversation with y'all.
Thank you, Representative Campbell. I know that it's getting late in the program, but we do want to entertain a couple questions from the audience. But before we do that, the other big issue, property taxes. And of course, that was the reason for the special session and your views, Dr. Osgood.
So I'm planning to do with Representative Campbell and Dunkley a whole town hall on property taxes. You need to vote no. And I know if you're a homeowner, you're saying it's going to give you relief. I would love to not pay the $7,000 a year for property taxes, but when they take that money away, you don't know how much your water is going to increase, your sewage is going to increase. You don't know if we're going to have to start paying to use the park, if they're going to put more parking stalls in. The money has to come from somewhere. It is tax dollars that fund the services. And I know if you're a homeowner, you're saying, well, the people that rent, they don't pay taxes. They don't, but they work. They pay into the economy. They rent. Many of you may be renting them a house, so you're making money that way. We cannot fail this. It's in your hands now. We couldn't stop it in Tallahassee. And I believe in you. We beat these kind of things at the ballot box before. They're going to send you a lot of tricky stuff. Oh, we trying to make it affordable and this and that. It's not true. When you look at the backdrop of what they're doing, by 2037, they want us to totally eliminate. Your cities are going to go bankrupt. They're not going to be able, they say we protecting fire and education. They're just forcing the cities to prioritize those things. So with the little pot of money they got to pay for safety and education first, and then try to backfill all the rest. It's going to be catastrophic. Some cities will go under if all of these taxes go away. So this is a time you have a reason to vote. It's not whether you like a Democratic or Republican. It's whether you want to save our communities so our children can have education, they can have parks. So we will get you a date. We'll come back at another time to really be able to deal with the property tax piece so you have the information.
And Representative Campbell, your perspectives on the property tax, and at the same time, I think that we have a few questions from the audience. If you have those, I'd like you to bring the cards up to me.
Well, you guys already heard my perspective on that. I think it's trash. I think it's poorly done. I think what we should have been doing should have
Excuse
been-
me just a moment, Rep. Campbell. Ushers, can you help me get the cards? If you would just pass your cards to the right end of your aisle, and the ushers will help us collect the cards, please. Pass them to the right end of your aisle. They got baskets. We ain't
Some of you
asking.
the other right.
Yeah,
okay?
we're not asking you for no money. They just using the basket to collect the cards.
Okay, Representative Campbell as well. And since you're answering that question about the property tax, will it impact renters with increased rents from landlords?
Absolutely. I really believe that this is going to be impacting renters. I am a renter temporarily for right now. I'm in the process of getting my own home. And I can see both aspects of it. And the fact that majority of Black owners are renters is asinine. It's crazy. We're not set up, or they're not allowing us to be put into positions to set ourselves up. And if we take away these taxes and we shift them the way that they're planning to shift them, it's going to cause that increase of Black owners, Black renters, and it's not going to be good for our community. It's going to hurt our communities. And we talked about officers and how that plays a part in this pot of money. Let's be clear now. Each sheriff, not only Broward County, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, all the way up to Tallahassee and past, each sheriff is going back to their county asking for increases. Where is that money going to come from? You know what I'm saying? And so that is the concern that we want to make sure people are aware of, that they understand that this is just not a one-time thing. This is going to collapse our economy here in Florida.
And before we jump, I want to just explain the point, because he talked about owning a house, right? So if you go to buy a house, you have to live in Florida for 5 years in order to get any type of homestead exemption to buy the house. Senate District 32 has 52% homeowners and 48% renters. So the person that owns the house can get the tax break. If they raise the rent, or if the single mom with the 3 kids has to pay more for water or more for lights, that's the extra $40 that she needs for gas to get the kids to school.
Okay, at this portion of the program, we're going to entertain a few questions from the audience. And since we're on the property taxes, one question is, I appreciate your candid dialogue regarding the elimination of property taxes on homesteads. My question is, with this issue is, will we go to the people to vote? What will you as a representative do to educate the community before we vote?
And thank you for that question. That was you that asked that question?
Can we just stick with the...
It is my question. Okay. But she's answered it. And I want you or Dr. Osgood to give us an idea of the tactics. You mentioned just one additional session. How do we now educate our community now so that they can be prepared to see this when it goes on the ballot?
Absolutely, and thank you for that question. So one of the things that I'm working with Senator Osgood on is I'm planning with my staff is that we're getting into the communities. For too long, we've been kind of back and forth between here and Tallahassee, back again, back. And so we are getting here, as you can see, this is our first, literally, we ain't been back 24 hours, and we already are having a conversation here. We have to continue to have these conversations. We're going to meet, we're going to go to each HOA, we're going to each community. I represent five cities. Senator Oscar represents a lot more than I do. And so we are going to each city. We're meeting up with each county. each set elected officials in each city and having that conversation. We want to make sure that folks are up to date. And by you all coming here, you become that messenger. You know, one of the amazing things that you get to learn when you're walking the doors, you get to learn how people interact with each other, how they have those conversations. A lot of times you hear folks say that, oh, it's not like it used to be where the neighbor knew the neighbor and they would watch the kids and all that other stuff. Well, in our community, we have a lot of people that are close-knit. I know families that actually sit down and they meet to talk about who is on the ballot. Like, today's the first game for the NBA Finals. Well, you know how everybody gets around and watch the NBA Finals? Well, these folks came around the table and they had that conversation. And so what we are doing here and what we'll plan to continue to do is let y'all know you are not alone. And the way we get past this is by connecting with each other and having that conversation. We got to go old school. We got to do word of mouth. We got to get out there. We got to let folks know. You got to let your neighbors know. You got to let your neighbors' kids know. You got to let your family know. And then also making sure that everybody's up to date, making sure that they're registered to vote, making sure that they have everything that they need. You know, I was laughing at the piece about passports and how you got to bring passports to make sure that you're eligible to vote. Well, shoot, that makes it better for us. Now that we can go on trips outside the country, you know what I'm saying? You know, so now that everybody will have their passport, but what we have to do is continue to communicate, continue to have these conversations, and that is what we plan to do moving forward.
And let me just say, don't be confused by the chaos, because you hear a lot of things that are not actually law. Right now, what we need you to do, I think that, you know, we've kind of gained your trust. We don't always agree, but you know that we're going to fight for you. We got your best interests. We've been consistent with our integrity. Right now, when you leave here tonight, I don't care what you see on social media, you're going to see a whole lot of ads on TV. You need to tell everybody that you know to vote no on the property tax amendment. I don't care what the wording is or what it says. This is something you're going to have faith enough to trust me. I'm not going to tell you to do something that's going to hurt you. This is going to be catastrophic. So for right now, what you can do when you leave here on the phone to tell people how good this form was and what you learned, you saying, I need to tell you that you need to vote no on the property tax amendment on the November ballot, no matter what you see on social media, no matter what you see on the news, because there's going to be a whole bunch of money dumped in to try to brainwash you or to confuse you so that you make the wrong decision.
Okay, my next question. Last night in Miami, I hosted an event with Generation Z and Millennials, and most of them at that meeting last night were NPA, and they want you to address that. Can you explain non-party affiliation and its significance?
So if you're NPA right now, I have a plea to you from the bottom of my heart. I told you, it's non-party affiliation. So I agree. We all frustrated with the Republican and the Democratic Party. I am too. But if you're a registered NPA, you cannot vote in the primary election. You cannot vote in the primary election. So when I tell you about losing representation in black seats, a lot of that's going to happen in the primary election. Just like I need you to vote no on that ballot amendment about these property taxes, I need you to go reactivate your party affiliation just for this election. Just for this election. I need you to just give us a little grace. Go reactivate your party affiliation. People died for you to vote. Why would you not want to vote in the primary and the general election? School board races are decided in the primary. Judges are decided in the primary. You got within the party, the racism within the party in the attack on black seats right now. And if we turn out, we got the numbers. This congressional district 20 is 151,000 black Democrats. The church is nonpartisan. I'm your Democratic senator representative. The church is just a place where we having this event at. But you need to understand the numbers. When they tell you it's not a minority district, it's 42% black. They're counting Democrats, Republicans, and MPAs. If we break down the numbers by party, we have the numbers to control what happens in the primary election and the general election.
And if Supervisor of Election, you want to address that to Representative Campbell, or should I go to the next question?
No, I was just going
with
to
the
add.
NPA.
I was going to add on quickly is that all this is a strategy. The more people that they can make and play this game, as far as who do we have to actually vote, and who do we can put to the side, they're going to do that. And so it is incumbent on us to make sure that we know how the game is being played. And yes, it's frustrating because they move the goalposts every year. Every year we out here hula hooping, jumping in out of hoops and trying to figure out what's going on. And that's why we are having this conversation, so that you know how to remain sane through all the chaos, because there is a lot of distractions going on. Even within amongst ourselves, there's a lot of distractions going on. And it's going to take every fight and tooth and nail to make sure that we stay strong and we stay focused on the plan. Because I said this on the floor, and I'll say this here again. A person that fails to plan, plans to fail. And we're not going to fail, because we are here, we are locked in, and we're going to make sure that folks know what is the best move for them in making sure that they can have their voice heard in every election.
Okay, the next question, if the Supervisor of Election is still in line, Joe Scott. The question was that they wanted to address about a change of address and how to update the registration form. And does your driver's license have to have your picture on it and address? So if we go back online in a few minutes, he perhaps can ask that question. But the question now is dealing with, you made an allusion to it, about the Florida lottery and the funds that they different. And someone had a question for you, I guess, Dr. Osgood, about the lottery money and funding.
The new drivers.
I mean, of course, that's like the best ID that you could use currently, but the new ID requirements for elections are going into effect starting on January 1st of 2027.
January 1st of 2027.
That's the delay. If he can repeat.
We okay?
SOE, can you repeat?
Okay. Is the question?
Yeah, the question is, can you repeat it?
Repeat your answer, please.
So the question was about driver's license and whether or not we need to use what driver's license or what ID is needed for this year's elections?
Correct.
Okay, so basically, this year's elections, the important thing for everybody to know is that there's no change from how it's been. So we actually have all the IDs listed on our website, browardvotes.gov. We do have a space on the website that shows you what IDs are available now, and that's going to change January 1st, 2027, after this year's elections. So, of course, the driver's license or state ID, your Florida ID, is the best way to, is always going to be your best ID. One thing that's important for people to know is that you are supposed to vote at the address where you currently live. Some people think that address needs to be on your driver's license or on your state ID, and that is actually not true. So while I encourage everybody to update their driver's license if they have moved, update your address and update your voter registration with your new address, when you go to vote in person, if you need to give a new address and that new address doesn't match the address on your ID, that's fine. You can do that and you can vote. So hopefully that's clear. I know that's something that I've even heard people say, oh, I can't vote because I didn't get a new driver's license since I moved. And that's just really not something that's going to stop you from being able to vote either now or when the new law is in place. So for the people who have a state ID, who have a driver's license, you're in really the best position and you're going to be able to vote. If you guys are really concerned, and I know most people are concerned about what's going to happen under this new law, the best thing for us to do is to urge everybody in our community, our family, our friends, to get the real ID if they have not done so already. Go get real ID, get yourself, even if you don't drive, you can get a state ID, but go ahead and get that done, and that way you won't be disenfranchised after this new law goes into place.
Thank you, Supervisor Election. We had similar questions about the real ID and driver's license, so I'm not going to be able to read all those questions because they are pretty much in the same vein. But we did have a question about funding from the Florida Lottery and the diversion of some of the funds. And Dr. Osgood, you can speak to that.
So I'll be brief. About 1% of that money actually goes to education. We have the authority to move money around. Like even today, I was getting budget amendments from different departments. We take it from the general fund. We take it from different places. And you'll get an email, and if you don't respond back that you oppose, it's kind of just moved around. And if the department is asking for it, it's probably because they need it. So for those of you, you know, that delight in doing your lottery, you are giving 1% of that money to the kids. But there's a better way that you can do it. When you plan to go down to the Hard Rock, just take out the 1% and give that additional 1% to your church and earmark it for the youth ministry. And you'll have the same impact on helping those kids.
Well said, well said. The next question, and I'll try to combine two questions. Why aren't we putting more pressure on the Democratic Party, your own party, and also because of the MAGAs may pick up a few more seats, does that limit us from voting along party lines alone?
Can you say that question again? Is it pressure on?
The pressure on the Democrats. Why aren't we putting more pressure on your own party, Democrats?
To get?
That was in, it's just those few words. And the other question was, because of the MAGAs may pick up a few more seats, does that limit us from voting along party lines alone? I guess they're referring to reaching across the aisle.
Mm-hmm. So we, let me preface this. We are putting pressure on our own in our political party. We are constantly having these tough conversations. We are constantly making sure that we're checking each other. The thing about it is that when we come out to the community and when we come out here, we are united. A lot of times you get the argument is, why can't they stand united? Because all we see is them fighting each other. And that is true. But at the same time, you know, what we've been working with now is trying to make sure that folks are hearing the Black Caucus, the Florida Democratic Black Caucus has been meeting and has been setting up meetings and plans to continue setting up meetings to make sure that we're having these conversations with the party as far as how do we make sure that this does not occur, that we keep our district. How do we make sure that we are providing that? And it's an interesting conversation, to say the least, but it's one that is needed to make sure that we are on the same page. We are advocating for ourselves. And then as we're advocating for us, you've seen folks come out publicly as far as what it is that they feel regarding the issues. I put out an op-ed around redistricting in the Sun Sentinel and how that plays as an impact and why it is important. Because I think the more we keep going and we keep erasing our history, folks tend to forget how we got here and why things are put in place. You see that all the time. You see that with the current president cutting things, and they had to come back and redo it because they are like, this is why that was put into place, because nobody is standing up to say why that is occurring. And so we're continuing, we are doing that, we're going to continue doing that, and we're going to make sure that as we move forward that we're locked in step. But the conversations, when you see us stepping out and you see us feeling like we're kumbaya, and trust me, it was some heated fights behind scenes, but it's it's incumbent on us to be locked in step.
So I'll just say real quickly, what are you doing to put pressure on the party? You know, I've been in a battle. You've probably seen me on TV, and I'm grateful for Representative Campbell and other members of the Florida Legislative Black Caucus that have begun to speak up about right representation. Let me answer the mega question. So this is what I see. We got a situation right now where our representation is being attacked. So we may get to a November ballot, and people of color may say, well, we got to keep somebody that looks like us in a position of power, even if they're in the other party. We need somebody somewhere that looks like us with our lived experience and power, and that's what we don't want. That's exactly what, but that's how it's designed. That's how it's designed. So if you're in the Democratic Party, use your Facebook page. You got to engage. I don't have an ego. I can't do it by myself. I'm going to fight for you with everything I got. But we need everybody engaged, everybody on deck. And if it was the Muslim community, the LGBTQ, the Jewish community, I would be fighting the same way because I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. But we can't do everything. The government is for the people, by the people. That's why this forum was intentionally named that. We will not make justice come to fruition without you. Your elected officials are limited in our capacity. We are as strong as you make us.
We have a comment from the supervisor of election, Joe Scott. He's going to chime in. Mr. Scott. He's in Orlando in case you got to this meeting And while we're trying to get him up online, we're going to do some closing questions with our representatives here about the single most important thing we should understand about the 2026 legislative session as well, and what gives you hope, if any, about our district here in Broward County and in South Florida. So if we can get the SOE up, I'd appreciate it. If not, we'll just go with our closing arguments. Statements, excuse me.
Representative Scott, you're here.
I am here.
All right, Joe, go.
But I didn't hear anything. It's been completely silent on my end.
Okay, you had a comment.
Did you have a comment?
Are we wrapping up?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I guess to wrap up, guys, thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's the people who come to these meetings who are really the pillars of this community, because you all get this information, you take it back, you share it with your family, you share it with your friends, and you help a lot more people than just the people that are in this room to be informed and prepared and ready to participate in our democracy. Please help us get folks out to vote, both in August and November, because as you've heard tonight, this is a critical time for us to show our dissatisfaction with what's going on. And we need to show that dissatisfaction at the polls. So thank you guys for your time tonight. And thank you again to Dr. Osgood, Dr. Jackson, for having me tonight. It's been a real pleasure. It was a good conversation. I really enjoyed hearing what everybody had to say when I could hear. But so you guys, thank you all. Have a great night.
All right, we're going to thank you, Supervisor-election Joe Scott, Dr. Osgood, and Representative Campbell.
And thank you. I know we're running behind on time, and I want to apologize. We had a script, and we kind of got off of it. We had two presenters in a panel, so we're not mistreating Ms. Ellison. You keep hearing Mr. Scott jump in and answer questions. We kind of didn't know he wasn't going to be here, so we kind of got off script. So I don't need y'all to go talk about nothing other than voting no on that referendum and doing your thing. Let me just say, Tallahassee is very serious. In Tallahassee, we make decisions to make, break, or take people's lives. I'm a no on every death penalty bill because I believe in the grace of God. I think that God giveth life and God take it away. But a lot of decisions are made in Tallahassee. There's something called the Florida Channel, where they televise everything we do. You can go there in the Library of Archives. It'll say the Senate in session, the House in session. It'll give you what the governor said at this press conference. You gotta understand what's going on in Tallahassee. It is my prayer that I'm gonna get somebody to help me raise some money that during the 2027 legislative session that we take busloads of people from Broward County to Tallahassee so people can see us and know that we're human, know that we have needs, and they can hear our concerns. We have to increase our presence on the state level because the decisions that are being made right now by the people in power are not, in many instances, connected to us because we don't have the numbers. We don't have the representation. That's why your vote is important. I hope at least somebody was fired up enough tonight to start thinking about running for office because we need you. We need you in this game. Many of us are term limited now, and we got to be able to pass the baton. I'm ready to pass my baton. You know, we got to be able to do that.
I'm gonna start this conversation, my statement with how I started the first question is the House is different than the Senate, completely different. And I'll share what happened yesterday. So as we were debating, one of my Democratic colleagues was looking for a member because their amendment was up. And they thought that they were in the bathroom. And so they went to the bathroom to call them, and one of the Republican members, or newly Republican members, because this person was a former Democrat, switched Republican. That's another conversation for another day, but we talked about disingenuous earlier, but told them, you just gotta show up. You guys are not ready to show up. You just gotta show up. And that resonates with me because that is the game plan right there. They are expecting us not to show up. They are expecting us not to show out, you know. But I tell you, we are not going to allow that to happen. You aren't going to allow that to happen. We are here as a community to make sure that we hear your issues, make sure we answer your questions, and make sure you provide the support. And then you guys take that and you pass that information on to the closest person to you. We are not asking you to go ahead and come to Tallahassee and knock on doors and stuff like that. But we want you to start off and feeling empowered and feeling that you have the power. Your phone has that power. You got people that you can contact right now without even having to see them, that they're going to respond to your message. They're going to listen to you. They're going to hear you out. And you need to utilize that problem. We all have privilege in some capacity in here. It's going to take all of us to tap into all our various areas of privileges and utilize that support as we come into this election, because they are expecting us not to show up. They say what they say on record because they expect us not to watch the tape. They have everything that they said that they're going to do on tape. Like, they're telling us in front of our face. And, you tell me, you show me, I believe you, but if they're telling us day in and day out, all we need to do is live by is showing up. And showing up for you may be a phone call, maybe talking to a neighbor, maybe checking on somebody and making sure that they're okay. Are you registered? Are you okay? Do you know what's going on? Maybe helping somebody get on Florida Channel to watch what's going on. Maybe following us on Facebook, Instagram, or any social media platform. I'm not on Snapchat. But
That's for the kids.
But it is that this information is not to scare you, but to empower you, to let you know you all have the power. You guys have more power than us sitting here with the mic. Because the only way we are here is because of you. The only way that we're doing what we're doing is because of you. So don't let them trick you or mislead you to think that you ain't got nothing. Because the Democrats are in the super minority. Nah. You have allies. You guys have a team. You have support. We just got to figure out and tap into that. Because the thing is, when somebody is losing, they want you to feel like you ain't got no way out. That's what we call an abusive relationship. And for those who don't know, I'm a mental health therapist. I counsel people struggling with mental health issues. And so when your abuser is abusing you, they want to make you feel like you have no way out and you have to depend on them. And I'm here to tell you that's not your option. Just look around the room. Look at how much people are here. I know some of y'all thinking we can have more. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. All we got to do is show up. I'm showing up. I'm showing out because you guys voted me to show up. I don't take that for granted. And if I'm not taking that for granted, you shouldn't either.
Okay, thank you so much. Marsha's going to do a quick appeal for the NAACP, Ms. Ellison.
So I'll go right into the next question because I know we over time. I'm sorry we got off the timeline. We really wanted to accommodate Mr. Scott. Mr. Baltimore had a question about what gives me hope as an elected official. My hope comes from the fact of my lived experience in this community. I believe in this community. This community has never let me down. This community helped me rebuild my life from living homeless on the streets with addiction 36 years ago to now representing you as your state senator. So I'm standing with God, and I'm standing with you. We have to also make sure that we also support, so you got 1% going to education. You can take out another % of the money that you go into the Hard Rock and pay $35 to be a member of the NAACP. And why is that important? Because a lot of what we're going through, as you see, is being fought in court. The NAACP has the capacity to sue the state, to sue these different organizations so that we can have justice maybe one day again in the court. Now, I am proud of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated because we added 85 members to the NAACP. So whatever group I'm in, I'm saying the same thing. We got to stop talking the talk and walking the walk. I know that others are involved, but we can't sleep on this. We have to make the sacrifice and make these small investments. That $35 is just not a meal at the Dutch pot one night. You know, we can cook one night, but it's vitally important to our future. So my hope is in you. I'm counting on you to go vote no on this tax referendum at the ballot. I'm counting on you to share this information. I'm counting on you if you're an MPA and you want to talk further to me. I would like to talk and pray with you. I'm not going to use any oil, so I ain't going to mess up your hair or your clothes. But I want to have a serious conversation. I need you to reactivate in a party so that we can vote in every election and we can be strong together. Think about what happened in 2020 when we came together, and I'm going to leave this question alone. 2020, we had an election. We had the supervisor of election, Mr. Joe Scott, that had never ran before. He was in a race with a lot of people with a whole lot of money. We had Mr. Harold Pryor, a young man who had never ran before, in a seat with a lot of people with a whole bunch of money. We had Ms. Foreman, who was in a race, Brenda Foreman, with people that had 3 times much money as she had. We had Chef Gregory Tony, who came to us through a way that some of us didn't like, but he's here and he's done a good job since he's been here. When we came out of that election, we had Mr. Scott, we had Sheriff Tony, we had Mr. Pryor, we had Ms. Foreman as the clerk of court, we had Gordon Weeks as the state attorney. That's what we do when we come together. Some of y'all will read between the lines on what I'm saying. So the same thing we did then, I'm counting on you to do that now.
Thank you so much. We're going to conclude this program tonight and just be reminded that democracy is strongest when citizens are informed. We're engaged, we're active participants in this whole process. And I know we talked about the legislation, the budget, voting rights, representation, redistricting, other matters, but thank you for your attendance. I want to thank you, State Senator Dr. Rosalind Osgood. Thank you so much, State Representative Darrell Campbell, as well as Supervisor of Election Joe Scott, President NAACP Marcia. Thank you so much for your time. Miss Michelle Rowe, thank you so much for your kindness. Brother Kenny Smith and the Voices of New Mount Olive, and all the elected officials, clergy, community leaders, and residents that are in attendance tonight. We thank you. I want to extend a special appreciation to the senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Marcus Davison, his wife, Sister Ivanka Davison, the New Mount Olive Church, for your hospitality night. And we're going to bring back, and he's going to make a statement about that Miami and Ohio State game, the Reverend Tom Jackson, closing benediction.
As Reverend Jackson is coming, I want to ask you to mark your calendars for July 1st and pay attention to our church's website. We'll give you a time, but we're going to be back here for another forum with some national guests that will be followed by a concert. Many of you were here with us when we had Magic Johnson, Yolanda Adams. It's going to be one of those kind of things, and we will continue to reach out to you. Our First Lady has indicated that she wants us to do this quarterly, and I don't know if it's Pastor telling her or she telling us, but whatever we need to do. And I want to say personally that I'm grateful for this church and all of the churches that continue to open your doors so that we can feel safe and having conversations like this that's going to help us to protect democracy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Osgood. Thank you, all of our guests. If you could please stand as you're able, every eye closed, every head bowed. Lord, we thank you for what you have done this evening. We thank you, Lord, that you have enlightened us with facts and with information, and you are now charging us. You're charging us to become the giant on whose shoulders the next generation stands. You did not give us this information so that we could just hold on to it, but you gave us information so that we could do something. Now, Lord, give us courage, courage to speak in those times we would otherwise not speak. Give us wisdom, wisdom to use the very vote that you have given us, and make us sick and tired. Make us sick and tired of being sick and tired. Help us to become that Fannie Lou Hamer that refused to be quiet. It is now time. It is for a season such as this. We hear you, Lord, and we are ready to march. We are ready to fight. We are ready to vote. Thank you, Lord, for what you have given us this evening. Now take us home, never out of your presence, but from this place. In your precious name we pray.